Welcome to But Frankly Pierce News. I'm Arthur Fairview, and here's what we are facing. First, we wish to offer congratulations to the members of the Writers Guild of America. We are all thrilled that you got what you fought for and that the strike is now over.
Indeed, that was a long 148 days. And most of our entertainment during that strike was pretty awful.
No, that's because it was reality TV, written in the halls of Congress.
No joke. Pressured by MAGA Republicans, Kevin McCarthy started an impeachment inquiry against President Biden, and they just held their first hearing.
If you can call it that.
Republicans on the House Oversight and Accountability Committee repeatedly talked about the volume of evidence they had uncovered, but in the end, it was just talk.
Even their own witnesses said there wasn't enough evidence to impeach President Biden.
The hearing was designed to give the extremists of the Freedom Caucus one of their demands, but there is no evidence that can prove anything, not to mention the fact that everything brought forward came from a time before Joe Biden became president.
Kind of makes the whole impeachment thing moot.
Just like the pitchfork and torch-bearing extremists calling for it.
With the government shutdown looming, Democrats on the committee called the hearing out for what it was, a distraction.
Online, everybody's making fun of this Seinfeld impeachment, an impeachment hearing about nothing, apparently, 2 days before the government is about to shut down.
While we sit here just 2 days away from a complete government shutdown, House Republicans want to distract the American public from their funding failure with a baseless impeachment inquiry lacking facts and foundation.
Committee Chair James Comer of Kentucky lost control of the hearing as Democrats on the committee, thoroughly prepared, came out swinging. Take a look.
So, Professor Gerhardt, what would you say is the primary flaw in the House Republicans' claims about President Biden?
Well, I suppose I could say a lot, but the problem is that the dots are not connected. The name that's been repeated most often in this hearing is Hunter Biden, not President Biden. And the point of an impeachment inquiry is not about a president's son. It has to be about the president himself. And I don't think those dots have been connected. There have been lots of assumptions, lots of accusations, but not evidence.
The majority sits completely empty-handed with no evidence of any presidential wrongdoing, no smoking gun, no smoke.
What a day we are having here, isn't it? Right? I mean, listen, as a former director of emergency management, I know a disaster when I see one.
Moskowitz wasn't wrong. After that 6-hour hearing, even Fox News was unimpressed, citing Comer had promised to present a mountain of evidence against President Biden. None of the expert witnesses today presented any proof for impeachment. The way this was built up, where there's smoke, there would be fire. But where there's smoke today, we just got a lot more smoke.
But smoke is a visible obstruction, and it makes the truth hard to see.
I know where we could blow some of that smoke.
In better news, the House of Representatives passed a bipartisan continuing resolution to fund the government for 45 days, or until just before Thanksgiving, by a vote of 335 to 91.
Oh, good.
The Senate also passed a continuing resolution by an overwhelming vote of 88 to 9. The 9 were all Republicans.
Of course they were.
The maneuver was a huge blow to the MAGA caucus that was demanding dramatic cuts to the government. The measure the House passed was a clean continuing resolution to fund the government at 2023 levels for another 45 days, with 2 important exceptions. It added disaster funding, and it stripped out additional funding for Ukraine's war against Russia.
Well, that's not good.
No, it's not. How will they handle keeping up the promised support?
Representative Eric Swalwell wrote, "We will get the Ukraine funding next. This is a 45-day bill to make sure government is open and troops, cops, air traffic controllers, etc. get paid. With the same leverage we used to bear back MAGA, we will keep Ukraine in the fight."
Okay, then.
The biggest loser in that vote was the failed former president, who, as we have mentioned before, urged loyalists to both impeach the president and shut down the government until they got all their demands. In fact, Representative Jamie Raskin called this out in the hearing.
As Republican Representative Ken Buck, a Freedom Caucus member, told CNN the other day, President Trump has gone on his social media account and said we should be impeaching President Biden. Kevin McCarthy said we have an impeachment inquiry. you draw the conclusion, directly or indirectly, this impeachment inquiry was a result of President Trump's pressure. So we moved from a Trump-ordered government shutdown to a Trump-ordered impeachment process.
And in the end, the FFP is an agent of chaos.
You fools! Incompetents! Bunglers! Dummkopfs! Sissies! Call yourself killers! Stop it! Maxwell Smart has personally eliminated no less than 11 of our most vicious, brutal, cold-blooded agents!
No, not that chaos. Just plain old chaos, with a C. He recognized that hurting the nation, including our credit around the world, would make voters more likely to turn against President Biden.
Sounds like a typical chaos plot to me.
Not sure if it's at that level of quality.
Missed it by that much.
As we have said previously, getting himself back into the White House is becoming his only hope for turning back his legal troubles, especially now that a judge has decided that he, his older sons, a number of associates, and the Trump organization engaged in fraud that requires the dissolution of many of his businesses. This is a psychic blow as well as a financial one, and he cannot afford either.
Oh, I think he can afford it.
Agreed. In fact, I think he needs another.
Thank you, sir. May I have another? Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Actually, you can. Judge Arthur Engoron issued a gag order on the failed former president and his legal team on Tuesday as a result of a social media post featuring one of the judge's staffers.
Cool. Do we get to watch him choke?
Not that kind of gag.
Oh, who gets to shove the rag in his cake hole?
Again, not that kind of gag.
Ah, I get it. Silence is golden.
Duct tape is silver.
Close enough. The judge said, personal attacks on members of my court staff are unacceptable, not appropriate, and I will not tolerate them. Now, this week, history was made, as Speaker Kevin McCarthy will go down in history as the first U.S. Speaker of the House to be ousted. This was a concession McCarthy gave to the caucus to get the votes he needed to become Speaker back in January.
Oh, right, when 15 times was the charm.
Now that has come back to bite him. As Massachusetts Congressman Richard Neal stated, once you seal the deal, you have to take the consequences.
On this vote, the yeas are 216, the nays are 210. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The office of Speaker of the House of the United States House of Representatives is hereby declared vacant.
So now what?
For now, business in the House will come to a standstill.
Representative Patrick McHenry, the chair of the Financial Services Committee, has been named Speaker pro tempore, or interim Speaker, until a new leader is elected. McHenry's first act as Speaker? To order Nancy Pelosi out of her office while she's in California attending the funeral of Senator Dianne Feinstein. Despite that, essentially the House cannot do anything until a new Speaker is elected.
And all of this because McCarthy worked with Democrats to prevent a shutdown.
So those same maggot Republicans who called for this removal worked with the same Democrats to oust McCarthy.
I guess irony can be pretty ironic sometimes.
So, more chaos and dysfunction in the House.
Just what we need.
It is an awkward situation they now find themselves in, and it begs the question, what will they learn from this? What will they discover as a result of their actions?
You may find that having is not so pleasing a thing after all as wanting. It is not logical, but it is often true.
Truer words were never said. And now, we explore the world of the unlikely and bizarre with...
The deuce, you say?
Birdwatchers in Wisconsin typically see blue jays, woodpeckers, and the black-capped chickadee, as these are pretty common to the area. However, a recent visitor caused quite a stir in the avian community.
Oh?
Do tell.
5 American flamingos were spotted in Port Washington, about 25 miles north of Milwaukee, marking the first sighting of the species in Wisconsin state history. A crowd of about 75 bird enthusiasts were drawn to the city's South Beach after word spread on social media about the flamingos' appearance there.
But how did the flamingos get there?
Wildlife biologists hypothesized that the flamingos were pushed north in late August by the strong winds of Hurricane Idalia.
Either that or they were mistaken for migrants and bust out of Florida.
Speaking of which,
Oh, no.
next up, a Florida man.
Not him again.
No, a different Florida man.
You mean desensitize?
No, just a Florida man by the name of Reza Bellucci, who has been trying to cross the ocean in a bubble.
In a what?
Oh, is this that hamster wheel guy?
Yes, that's him. Bellucci, who lives in Florida and has been granted asylum from Iran, was taken in by the Coast Guard last week aboard his vessel, following several days of back and forth with the authorities. This was far from Bellucci's first encounter with the Coast Guard. He attempted 3 previous voyages in a similar homemade vessel in 2014, 2016, and 2021, all of which resulted in Coast Guard intervention.
Oh, didn't he try to go from Florida to Bermuda?
Yeah, but he had to be rescued when his bubble toppled on its side.
Coast Guard cutter Valiant came across Bellucci and his homemade vessel about 70 nautical miles east of Tybee Island, Georgia, on August 26th, as the Coast Guard was preparing for Hurricane Franklin. He told officers his destination was London, England, more than 4,000 miles away.
License and registration, please.
Bellucci was asked for the vehicle's registration. He said it was registered in Florida, but he couldn't find the registration.
Of course he couldn't.
Sounds like your basic Florida man.
The Coast Guard determined he was conducting a manifestly unsafe voyage. Officers then approached Bellucci in a small boat and instructed him to join them. Bellucci replied that he had a 12-inch knife and would kill himself if the officers attempted to remove him from his vessel. The officers returned to the cutter and stayed nearby.
There was a man in a bubble that was lost and was asking for directions to Bermuda. It became really obvious really fast that he wasn't a sailor, didn't know the ocean, was unequipped to do what he was attempting to do.
I said, why they come close to me? I think you're pirate. I said, pirate with bubble. Then come and say, come out. I say, no, I don't want coming out.
After multiple attempts, Bellucci continued with threats, including knives and bombs, although he later confessed that it was a hoax.
No one person is going to overcome the ocean. There was only going to be a bad outcome. This is by far the most bizarre case that I was involved with.
On August 29th, they once more sent a small boat, and this time was able to safely remove Bellucci from his floating hamster wheel. Bellucci was brought ashore in Miami Beach, where he was released on $250,000 bond and a special agreement.
We have an accord.
While his case is underway, he's barred from travel outside the Southern District of Florida, and he may not go to the ocean or board a vessel on the ocean.
Do you think so?
It has been 183 days since the failed former president received the first of his 4 indictments. Will justice prevail? Is everyone treated equally under the law? Watch this space. This has been by Frankly Pierce News. Thanks for watching. I'm Arthur Fairview. Get me off the streets. Get some protection. Get me to my feet. Get some direction. Hot air gets me into a blackout.
Yeah.